All right, we're back. Okay, so again on Tabletopia, pretty much any game takes about twice as long. So we're a bit tired, but first of all, your first reactions after your very first playthrough of Hamlet.
My reactions. Oh man. Well, I really liked it, but I had a feeling I would like it because I really liked this mechanic. It is,
Which
but
one?
um, pick up and deliver.
Oh, okay.
I like the competition on that. I like being able to see good moves and use other people's resources. But I think it can. There were a few things that were utterly brutal. I think where you're trying to make your own plan and you don't see how your opponent can not only make a great move but make a great move on your work, right?
Yeah.
Like that can hurt. And it didn't happen to me as often as it happened to you. So,
No, but it is a lot of times on a first play too, I'm just getting a feel for it. So I personally don't mind at all. I
right.
don't think I ever won a first time play. I'm usually when I play a first time, I'm trying to take every possible move to learn what they are. As far as so some people call it meanness. I don't. This isn't to me. This isn't a mean game at all. This is a very interactive game, and there
Mhm.
are yes, like you can benefit from other people's work, but there's enough in place. I felt that if you benefited from a lot of my work, one, it's a lesson to be learned, but there are ways for me to counteract that and benefit from your work
Yeah.
just as much. I never felt like, other than one point, I did back myself into a corner a little bit. So you got to watch out to make sure that you're not bankrupt. If you end up with no money, that's a very bad place. So yeah, this is definitely not. You always have one coin at least. But yeah, with that, being able to do moves that end up hurting the other player, it didn't feel mean though. Like it reminded me of a game called the Scarlet Pimpernel, which isn't the most popular game, but I really like it because the interaction is similar to this, where you're just messing with each other,
Yeah.
and it can be irritating, but it's a little playful too. Anyway,
This game has the feeling where you're trying to outsmart your opponent. It,
yes,
it feels a lot like that. Like that's really the challenge. A lot of games I play, you're trying to outsmart the game and make a
and
really move using the game's mechanics. In this game, you're trying to anticipate what your opponent will do and utilize them uh, to, to the great best of your ability. And I think it can be pretty devastating. Like this would be a tough game for people who are who don't want it to be too competitive because there's a lot of
yes,
ways it's really
yeah.
tough.
I was thinking that, like, I'm a good person to play this game with. If I
Mm,
was playing with someone super competitive, and I might get more competitive with it now that I understand it, but I'd probably still be having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I could see somebody who's very competitive. If you take some of those moves where you benefit from their work and they didn't see it coming, that could be kind of a sour experience.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Though along this same thread, but with less competition, a good recommendation is Via Nebula because Via Nebula is way way simplified. You can play it in 45 minutes or less, and it's still pick up and deliver, but there are it just feels like there are more resources on the board, and so there are other routes you can take to get your resources. But one of the things I liked about this game that really stood out, and I think is even stands out from other games that have a pick up and deliver mechanic, many times you get one or two moves on your turn, and so what that can allow you to do is you basically build your resources, and then by the time your next turn comes around, the resources you built are gone because someone took them. But in this game, if you have two, three, four workers, you can produce the resource, get the blueprint, build the bridge, deliver the resources to build the blueprint you just took, all in one turn. You can do these complete chains of events on your one single turn before anybody can mess with it. And that's a really nice reward for having multiple workers. And it's a great addition to a game of this type. I like
What did
that.
you think of the engine building?
It's that's interesting. I would bet you if you go on to like Board Game Geek or something and look up what the mechanics are listed for this game, they're not going to say engine builder. It,
Yeah, that's the one honestly that stood out to me more than anything because that's what made me happy.
yeah,
I loved that.
it doesn't in the rule book. You don't read it and go, oh, it's an engine builder game. But as you're playing it, it feels like an engine builder game. You can really build off and get more powerful moves as the game goes, and that was really cool. It was like a nice little bonus that I didn't think I was going to experience.
Okay, good. So would you play it again?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I signed up for the Kickstarter, so it's coming. So I'm
Okay.
probably going to teach it to as many people as I can and play it. And I think it's beautiful, by the way. Even with these components, which are simplified for this prototype, um, the artwork is gorgeous. And then when you add that, like the actual copies of the game are going to have little donkey, they call them donkeeples. The
Yeah.
rule book, they're shaped like that, and the resources are supposed to look a little bit better too. I know the Kickstarter has a deluxe version, so there's even more. But
Yeah, I honestly I like that in that even if they didn't upgrade the tokens, though I like it when they do. I prefer a donkey shape. I understand what's happening and I'm totally happy with it. And I love the vibrant colors of the artwork. Yeah, it was nice.
and it does another thing that uh, I don't often see. Where was it? Where have I seen this before? Oh, Orleans. In Orleans, and this game, they deliberately limit the number of resources that you have access to because they don't want you just capitalizing on one machine and getting all your points from that. Like,
Yeah.
for example, the marketing thing. I did marketing 3 times, or the market action 3 times, and I got some victory points for it. But you can't play the whole game on one strategy. You have to kind of do a little bit of everything, and that was really satisfying.
Okay.
I think it's good design. If I had any complaint at all, though,
Yeah, I wanted to go to downsides.
yeah, okay, let's go to downsides. Why don't you go first? I went first on the upside.
First is the donkeys, the first half of the game, and it could have just this isn't a review from my end. This is a first impression. So after several plays, and I do like it enough that I want to play it again, and I may very well learn the solo option and share that. But the donkeys, they are definitely crucial. However, to have them kind of just sitting for as long as they did in the beginning of the game, something about that just didn't settle well with me. Like there should be some use of them other than sitting in the church for whatever 10 turns, maybe. There were a lot of turns. So that could have been my strategy flawed as well. But all I know is that stood out as odd. I mean, that was the main flaw that came to my mind. Other than that, I really absolutely, I love it.
Um, I sometimes gripe about games where the end condition is entirely under control of the players.
Okay.
So what happens is the person who thinks they're going to win, it's in their interest to end the game. It's
Yeah.
in everybody else's interest to try to make the game keep going. And so what could happen, and I can foresee this for sure in a 3 or 4 player game, is because players can control the resources that are available on the board, they could deliberately block resources from being used so
Yes.
that one player can't end the game in order to try to make it. Now, I don't know how successful they would be. Like we mentioned earlier, based on how many workers you have, you can almost do anything.
Yeah.
Even if you can't access something, you can, figure out a way to make things work if you have enough workers. But um, I wish there was a more definitive ending, or I wish some of the triggers that get to the end game were a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
I think it's especially unsatisfying when the person who ends the game is also the last player, so no one even gets another turn. And if
Right.
there's
I was
another
wondering
one,
about that. Yeah.
I had to check. I checked the rules right before I did it because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And you don't even get a chance to like play a blueprint that you just collected. So I scored, gosh, I probably scored 12 to 15 points on my last turn because I was prepared for it.
Right.
What does that leave
Which,
your?
I mean, it does talk to strategy, but that leads to a problem that's similar to games like Scythe, where it's good, but you want to make sure that the players playing all have the same level of experience, or
Yeah.
one player can run away. Now, in our case, we have the same amount of experience as the first play, but I could see it. If you had experience and you were using that, you could run away with this game, and everybody would be in the dust. And the only other thing I'm thinking is length, which again, it's hard for me to judge on Tabletopia because it makes it feel longer. But we did take a lot of turns, and they're quick turns, but we took a lot of turns. And there is that possibility in the end where one player is just trying to delay the end over and over and over, like I was doing. And the other player's kind of in control of bringing the end, but the end could be delayed for a long time with there being only that one end condition, as opposed to something like if you have Rococo where basically there's 7 rounds that, and you can't stop it, like it's coming no matter what. So it's out of everyone's control. So you're kind of scrambling at the end because the game determines the end as opposed to the player.
And I actually, a great game to compare to is Imperial Steam, which came out last year. And in Imperial Steam, you play a certain number of rounds, or the game ends when one player reaches a certain destination on the map.
Yeah,
That works so well because you get that it's extremely satisfying.
it adds the stress of the crunch to everybody.
Oh yeah, it's extremely satisfying when you end the game with a powerful move. From my perspective, I loved how the game ended. I liked thinking about how I was going to end it and be like, oh my gosh, I have such a powerful move. This is going to be great. That was a wonderful experience, but I would not want to be on the receiving end of that aggression where just one person home run and dominates. I mean, it needs another end condition. I think it needs that, and it kind of is something else that um, it masks who's in the lead by making the scoring difficult to count. So there could be, I mean, I was pretty far ahead in this example, but you could know with certainty, oh, I'm in the lead. Oh, he's in the lead. Oh, she's in the lead. If you wanted to take down and keep everybody's score as you go. Instead, what happens is nobody really wants to keep score. So they end up ending the game just going, I think I'm in the lead. And then they end the game and they're like, oh, shoot, I wasn't. So I lost. I ended the game and I lost. Like, there's this challenge of like, well, should I pause, take everyone's score and know for sure that I'm winning, or should I let the game go on? And I don't like that. Then maybe if victory points were hidden, that's one way to resolve it, is that not everyone knows what the score is. But
that to me the bonus. I actually like it when you can't see, because otherwise, like if I can see who's in the lead, and like in that case where the person in the lead is more than double your points, you kind of lose any desire to keep playing other than your entertainment, because there's no catch-up mechanic. But if it's hidden, and that is one thing, is you have to be careful. And I saw where mine happened is when I ran out of money, and so I just had to take kind of not trash turns. They were useful, but that was my own fault. Like, I worked into a corner there. But after that move, there was no true recovering after that move. Although I think if I watched it again, I could probably find all kinds of strategies. And that's a plus to the game, is there are so many strategies that are really good. But I do like points being hidden for the end, just in that it keeps hope for the people. If they're totally hopeless, they don't know it yet. And that keeps them having fun.
It would certainly be fun playing it with more experience. I mean, I'm thinking about saying, is it worth saying that getting as many refineries as possible early is like definitely a winning strategy, or does it really just sort of depend? Like, did I just happen to choose a strategy that worked really well and you happen to choose one that like wasn't as strong? or maybe it's like, no, just you can't do that. Maybe what I did is something that no player should ever let a single player do because there's no way to do. I don't know. I'm not sure how many other ways to win. I know what I did definitely worked, but it's also like,
But they lay it out so it's intuitive to find out what works well as well, which I think they did good. So by placing the victory or whatever those special, what were those special badges for, like if you're the first to build the lumber mill, you get this special token. They definitely, by putting there, they let you know, they're signaling pretty heavy that this is a very strong way to win the game, because getting those
true.
The double value is very important, and I think that's good. They let you know ahead of time that you don't want to let someone get a majority of those. If you split it half and half, that's that's about as bad as you want to let it get. And they let you know as well. The church actually wasn't as valuable as I thought. I actually think the refineries are worth way more. So that was a good kind of lesson, because the church gives you victory points one time, whereas you invest in those refineries and you have continuing benefits, whether you take the resource or someone else does.
And the money, just to
Yeah,
have
just getting the money. So I think looking at the big church in the center and seeing, oh, this is the end game result. This is, I'm going to get the victory tile that's going to give me more points for using the church. That probably is a way to do it, but that's it's like a red herring. And I think the refineries are definitely the way to go. And even investing in a donkey earlier when you don't need it could help you out later on.
So I think I would recommend this game to people who like playing thoughtful, like, or a thoughtful game, something that's rich and has a lot of decision making, but take it pretty lightly. Because
Yes.
somebody who's more serious about games, who's like really competitive, they're gonna get frustrated by the certainty of knowing what the outcome is and knowing that the decision to end the game is up to the players. Like, you just wait till you're in first place and then end the game.
Yes.
I think that kind of takes away some of the fun if you're thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
But what I enjoyed playing with you is there was a lot of like just sort of rubbing each other's face in the dirt. Here's
Yeah.
what I think about.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that was actually fun. Like I just
You have to play it with the right people.
had
I agree.
fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I would play it again, and I would recommend it cautiously. And I would pick the people I played with cautiously. They would have to be people that could play lighthearted, but also try their hardest. But at the same time, like, you're right, there was a lot more. There could be a lot more upset feelings than I would have thought going into it if you weren't playing with someone prepared. All right. For Ben's complete review, be sure to check out the video that I'm putting up right after this. Any last words, Ben?
This is great. This is a lot of fun. Glad to do it again.
All right. All right. Thank you all. Love you all. And I will see you next time.